So thank you everybody for joining us during your lunch break. Very appropriate. We'll be talking about food and food waste. So I'm Atalanti Moquet, the founder of Giving Women. For those who are not aware of this organization, I'll do just a very, very brief explanation. We are a membership organization of women who work to capacity build on projects that are quite small projects in the field. We help them to grow and that are directed at girls and women. We don't have a regional preference and we don't have a thematic preference. We touch everything from livelihoods, education, health, whatever is affecting the lives of women and girls in need, we will look at. This is part of one of the branches. We have 3 branches. We have our projects, which are the core of our work. We have an educational component, which is workshops to make us actually better at the work that we do, to help create more impact, to have the competencies to help our projects. And this panel discussion is part of our awareness building program. This is the second in a series of follow-up discussions that we've had following our conference, which we did last October on food, women struggle to feed the world. And in that, we covered every aspect of the food chain, every aspect of women's contribution to that food chain and the challenges within the food systems. And we always do a call for action. And one of the issues that we felt that we could all participate in is really making a change in terms of food waste in our own lives, but also being aware of this food waste starts right at the beginning of the farming process, all the way down to our kitchens. So this is the second in a series. We had a mapping experience, which I will now pass on the microphone to Anna, who will describe what we've done beforehand and what we're doing today. So I'd like to welcome you all. Thank you all for being part of this event and encourage you to be active participants. Thank you very much. Enjoy the next hour and a half.
Thank you, Atalanti, and welcome to all to this second event of our nutritious series. The food system of the future starts in our kitchens. Why kitchens? Why waste? Why us? And why now? These are the topics we are here to discuss. As a quick refresher from event 1, we have that over 900 million tons of food waste was generated in 2019, of which 61 comes from households. In Switzerland, 38% of the national food waste takes place in our homes. In Kenya, national figures are not fully quantified, but certainly poorer households waste less. They are definitely more mindful of their little resources, and we could learn so much from them. The current magnitude and attitude towards food waste are unacceptable, particularly when 1/3 of our world population is hungry or experience some degree of malnutrition. So this session aims to identify concrete actions as individuals or collective to create the food and nutrition system we want to see. To this aim, we will dive into relevant initiatives that have been identified in our mapping event in April. We will also explore how they work and they could work, and we'll identify how we could engage at national and global levels to produce tangible results at our individual pace and taste. So today in the menu, we have a panel as a starter, a workshop as a main, and a project as dessert. So the panel includes 3 different perspectives in addressing food waste. The panel is going to be followed by an interactive conversation with all us. You can write your questions in the chat at any time and pop into the conversation after the panelists have done their presentations. The workshop will give us some tips to address food waste and will be interactive. We'll bring the more waste perspective and lifestyle that it is very likely to be more sustainable. And it will be run by Dorinda Phillips from Zero Waste Switzerland. I take opportunity to introduce her. That is, she is a specialist in training and behavior change. She's the founder of At Maximizing Learning. And she has worked for 20 years in leadership positions in Procter & Gamble. And she has walked the talk and has reduced her own household waste by over 90%. She's now ambassador for Zero Waste Switzerland, and she hopes to inspire Geneva to become the first zero waste canton in Switzerland. So we are really on a race. And the dessert will be the collective project, Kitchens of the World, that proposes to address food waste collectively, and it promises to be inclusive, delicious, and fun. So I am Ana Herling Hernandez, a nutritionist and obviously passionate by all these subjects. I'm thrilled to introduce you to the distinguished panel. Each participant brings so many wonderful ingredients to the table. Saskia Sanders, she is a scientific officer and public advisor on sustainable consumption and production at the FOEN, that it is the Federal Office for the Environment in Switzerland. She's concerned about reducing avoidable food waste and is now drafting the action plan against food waste. Karin Espuri and Claudio Beretta, they will be working in tandem. And Karin is the managing director of Food Waste Switzerland, aiming reducing food losses at various stages of the food value chain. She holds a master's in advanced studies in environmental technology and management, and she has been very active in education for over 10 years. And is passionate to encourage everyone to make changes to contribute towards our sustainable future. Claudio Beretta is a researcher, associate in the group of Food and Beverage Innovation at the School of Applied Science in Zurich University. And there he's responsible for sustainability in food systems, focusing on food waste reduction. He is also the president and co-founder of Food Waste Switzerland. And Stephanie Okeyo, she is born in Kenya and is a microbiologist and science communicator. She's the founder of a nonprofit organization, Under the Microscope, that aim to advance robust science and innovation in Africa. And Creatives for Science is a branch of this initiative and uses artistic ways to highlight food issues from a science and innovation perspective. Stephanie is part of the Food Systems Game Changers Lab. She was an ambassador of Women in Science East Africa. Also is representative to the UN Office Geneva at the Royal Academy of Science International Trust, and so many more active endeavors she has, too many to list here. So welcome to this wonderful panel, and thank you for being here. I would like to start with Saskia. Please bring us from global to national policy. How do you envision implementation of this action plan you are drafting to address food waste in Switzerland? And please don't be shy to mention also the key challenges that I'm pretty sure you must have.
Thank you very much, Anna, for this introduction. Well, I'd like to start with the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. I'm sure you have all heard about it, and it includes a specific goal for food waste reduction. So the aim really is set on a global level to halve food waste and food loss by 2030. And I think this was a very important step to accelerate all the initiatives and all the projects that were already going on. And I think it has also led to many activities on national levels, many countries now working on their national strategies, and also very important that they are all geared towards one clear goal. So in Switzerland, this led to the fact that the parliament gave a clear mandate to the Federal Council. They want an action plan against food waste, and they also want an action plan which allows to achieve this goal of halving food waste by 2030. They also want an evaluation of the initiatives that are already going on. And here I can already say that our analysis showed that, yes, there are many good initiatives and projects ongoing, but still it's not enough. A business as usual would not be enough to reach this very ambitious goal. So there will be an action plan that will also include new measures. And the third important part of the action plan is that there will be a regular monitoring to really monitor the progress that is being made. I hope that the action plan will be adopted and published this winter. And in 2025, we want to have, or there will be, an interim progress report so that we can really see what is the progress in terms of clear numbers, that and to see whether we are on track or if there need to be any changes. Now, just a few words about why is food waste such an important topic for Switzerland specifically. I mean, Anna, you already mentioned something about the global situation, and it's not very different in Switzerland. But of course, there are differences. Switzerland has a very high resource consumption, and 28% of the environmental impact of households is due to the provision and consumption of food. So that's the largest share of environmental impact. It's more important than housing and mobility. And within this important share of food, 1/4 is due to food loss and waste. So it's really a very important topic from an environmental point of view, and I think the need for action is very clear. I don't want to go too much into the numbers of how much food waste, but it's very clear that food waste and food loss occurs at every stage of the value chain. And we really need all the actors to be involved and to take actions in order to achieve the goal. From agriculture to the processing industry to wholesale and retail and the catering sector, and of course, in the end, the almost 4 million households in Switzerland. And that's part of the challenge, that there are so many actors involved. And the other part of the challenge I'd like to mention is that there are so many reasons and causes for food waste. It's not that we have the 3 main reasons we need to tackle, but we need to tackle a whole range of reasons on every stage of the value chain. But now back to the action plan. It hasn't been adopted yet, but I would like to mention just some core elements. And one very important element will be a cross-industry voluntary agreement. With cross-industry, we mean that it includes actors from the entire value chain. So from agriculture to the retail and catering sector. And on a more concrete level, we really want to develop sector-specific data collection methods, define measurable targets, and establish an annual reporting for all the companies participating. And all this, of course, with the aim that all actors will really implement many good and effective reduction measures in their field of action. And another important element will be the monitoring. I've mentioned it already. There will be a progress report on the level of the voluntary agreement. So what is the progress being made by those actors that are involved? But there will also be a progress report on a national level, including also, well, all the national food loss and waste. But of course, that will be not every year, because data collection is quite, well, a big question here. And I think this is maybe also a nice handover to the next panelists, because here we are working closely with Claudio Beretta as well. And yes, I think you may continue. Thank you.
So thank you very much for handing over, Saskia, and for your interesting view into what is going on the political level. I will share my screen to show you a few slides. So probably now you can see our main question that I will show you. How does foodwaste.ch build a bridge between knowledge to action? So it started all in 2012 when, during my studies of environmental sciences, I recognized that there is a food value chain, and in this food value chain we have a lot of inefficiency. There is food waste happening at each stage of the food value chain, and we have many actors that are involved into this problem. So the consumers, the society, politics, and the entire food industry. So then my first step was, well, I have to write a master thesis. So what can I do? I can estimate how much food is wasted in Switzerland. And I could combine this afterwards with a dissertation with life cycle assessment to estimate the environmental impact of this wastage. And so this was the general overall picture. But now it was important to get more and more concrete. And so now I'm working at the School of Applied Sciences, where we have much more applied projects, and we are working on concrete solutions. I'm in the group of food technology. So this is one focus, for example, side streams that can be valorized, but we are looking at the entire food value chain. So on one hand, we have science. We see that there is a potential for action. We have the food system on the other hand, but there is something missing. And that's why after my master thesis, I co-founded the association foodwaste.ch with the goal of building a bridge between science and the society. So what is foodwaste.ch? It is a platform for information. It is a platform for sensibilization of consumers and of all actors of the food value chain. So also fostering the dialogue between actors and coordinating between different projects. And all this is driven by the main motivation of increasing love and passion about food, as you see with the strawberries. Now I'm handing on to Karin, who will present more concrete what we are doing.
Thank you very much, Claudio. Yeah, as Saskia already said, there are so many reasons for food waste, and but the aim is clear. We have to reduce the food waste, and the food that is wasted that has the most impact on the environment is on the household level. So as consumers, it's really important to waste less of our good food. So what we do is we try to raise awareness with really hands-on projects. So for example, we organize feasts from surplus food. It's perfect food, but maybe the carrots were too big, the cabbage too small, and we collect the food from farmers and we cook, and then we invite people to sit down and to enjoy a very nice meal. And then it's the moment to talk about food waste. So with our partner, the Kitchen Collective, they have huge pots, and we cook for around 400 to 500 people. And then it's really the moment when people say, what, this food would have been wasted, why? And then you can go into discussion with them. Next slide, please. And then we also have a similar project. It's also a feast from surplus food, but it's called Food Safe Banquet. It started in Bern. You see it's like a very long banquet, 60 meters long, and it has the same message people sit down, strangers sit next to friends, so poor besides rich people, and we can go into discussion. And we did this banquet, tomorrow it will be the 6th time that we do it in Bern. And thanks to a foundation who made a donation to us, we could multiply the food safe banquets in other cities. So the last weekend, there was a food safe banquet in Zurich, one in Chur and one in Münsingen. And tomorrow there will be the next one in Bern. So it's also in the media, and I think it really multiplies the message of reducing food waste. There are many, many volunteers engaged at Food Safe Banquet, also at Deine Stadt tischt auf. Next picture. And yeah, we even have a 5-star hotel, and they give us some of their service people, and next to them volunteers and professional people are working side by side. It's a very, very nice event. Next, please. But we also have a traveling exhibition. The next 2 weeks, it will be in Zurich. And we offer this to schools. Last year, we were in St. Gallen with our exhibition, and we could lead 30 school classes through this exhibition. And you have tips how to reduce food waste at home. So we also are interested in raising awareness in the next generation, of course. And then that's something for us all. We have cooking classes about the zero waste kitchen, because it has a lot to do with creativity. What can I do with leftovers? How can I make it more creative? So this is what we teach in our cooking classes. And also we have another cooking class which is about fermenting, making pickles, so that we have the leftover food from at home, that it doesn't go bad. Yep. And we also made some or produced some material for school classes that teachers can use themselves. And as Claudia said already in the beginning, we are a platform. So we also give the platform to others. On our website, you can find more than 100 local initiatives, all tackling food waste on their own ways. So when you're interested, you can go on this site and maybe find an initiative which is close to you, and you could maybe be a volunteer and helping the people there, or get involved the way they need help from you.
Thank you very much, Karin. So in a nutshell, we try to spread love, not waste, by multiplying lighthouse projects, initiating new initiatives, and networking to create new synergies. And all this is, of course, only possible thanks to fundings and generous donations, and many voluntary supporters, as you have seen in the slides before. So thanks a lot for listening.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Karin and Claudio. And now, Stephanie, you bring so many ingredients to the table. You are like a bee caring about the cross-pollination south-north, yet you pay attention to keeping local focus and respectful to your African culture. So young, you already have been active and relevant in so many areas: human rights, women, in particular young children's under agency capacity. You always bring science and research at the center, and also are caring to have impact using the tool, and to portray impact and to assess impact using the magical tool of creativity. Share with us how do you manage with all these many ingredients, and how do you address, how do you suggest addressing food waste in an enticing manner?
Thank you, Anna, for the introduction. I think I'm always somebody who goes or likes starting a conversation back to basics, because I think we live in a world, there's so many terminologies that it becomes confusing. So initially, if you look at the terms food loss and food waste has been used interchangeably along the food value chain. But right now there's specificity in what they mean. So I think I'll just go back to what food loss in our context means. And this, when you talk of food loss, you think of food that has not reached the consumer, so maybe unfit for human consumption. And when you think of food waste, you think one that is either wasted when sold to the consumer or at our household. So when you look at most African countries or most developing countries, food waste, food loss has been a key component or areas that most effort has been put in, because agriculture is our main economic industry or sector. So food waste generally within the household is still a new conversation, because majority of people depend on farming, and people are more concerned about their farm produce, either being lost before the harvest or not able to reach the market. So food loss has always been, it's not a new concept within developing countries and also African countries or Kenya, where I come from. But food waste is still kind of a new concept and generally not seen as a main problem, because we're still a growing country and growing economies, so people are not much, in a sense, wasteful, as Anna had mentioned. So I think it's interesting that the challenges are global, but at the level at which it meets the common person is different. So I think we all just, while having all these conversations, always need to be aware of where we're meeting people, where they're from. And I think it's an interesting perspective from the North and South when you look at it from those angles. And generally, I think it is important to bring about the conversation of women, because statistically women produce more than 50% of the food worldwide. And also you see them across the chain within processing and also within the household. And like, for example, in where I come from, women usually take care of household activities or responsibilities. So women are across that whole food chain, from the farm to the fork. And the world we currently live in we are facing several challenges. You take a climate change, which affects the farmer, and also there is growing population. So we'll need to feed like 10 billion people in the coming years. And science and innovation plays a key role, because we can only mitigate these challenges with science. And therefore, I always believe that it is key to have women within areas of impact, such as science and innovation. There's this African saying that we always say, it is the owner of the house who knows where the house leaks. So I think you always need key stakeholders of people who interact with the issue, the situation, so that you have a holistic approach to it. And it is very important for us to always, there's efforts being put, but I think it is very important for us to have women and also girls upcoming, especially in the agricultural sector. So for example, within Africa, there is the African Research, the award, the African Women in Agricultural Research and Development. They're doing fellowships and also spearheading and mentoring women within the science space, particularly in agriculture. And also, I think it is very important still to have young girls interested in agriculture, taken to the world that we're globalizing, and agriculture might not be a very interesting field. And in terms of, as a researcher, because I come from a scientific background, I always believe research is only impactful when it can be communicated to people. Because at the end of the day, we do research for people. So if people are not able to consume it, to contribute to it or understand it, we have failed in terms of the research space or the purpose of even doing the research. So I think communication, particularly science communication, is very keen. And we have to be very keen on how we communicate it, and does it reach people, and who exactly is communicating it, and the mutual learning. Is there mutual learning? And our organization under the microscope has a program called Creatives for Science, which roots from this background, in which we feel it is very important to be very specific and intentional on how we communicate. And in the looking at food waste, yes, policies might help and all that, but at the end of the day, it's about lifestyle that happens within your house and that we have no control of. I don't think any law or any policies can have that micro effect. So it is all about connecting to people. And I think arts, culture, technology has an opportunity to do that. And sometimes you find people don't even know the impacts of food wastage. Or sometimes you find that there is no available waste management and they don't know the ones available. So for example, in Kenya, we have takataka solution. Takataka in Swahili means waste, which are very specific and give consumers an idea of what happens or the type of sorting they do with their waste. So I think it is very important to bring on board such solutions available, and also for the consumer to know, when I throw this food, what's the water footprint? You know, there is a moral and economic aspect to food waste. So I feel that is a very keen to bring about. And also coming from a very Africa growing population, I think there is room for entrepreneurship, because all these solutions need an entrepreneurial aspect for it to be of interest to people. So I think particularly in the waste management, I feel there's a big room within developing countries, as this is still a big gap to sort around and create opportunities. And just lastly, I started speaking of the North and South perspective, but one common thing is that there is lack of data points. And I feel the work that being done by the other panelists is very keen, because you can only mitigate a problem when you fully understand it. So looking forward to exchanges and learning from each other. Different perspectives, but I think the same shared goal. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. And now that we have been enlightened by all these ingredients and meals that are being cooked in all these different corners of Switzerland and in Kenya, in the world, I invite all of you to join the conversation, bring your question, your comment, your suggestions, and be spontaneous. And if you feel like typing in the chat, do it also. And yes, let's go ahead. I can see Too Good To Go, Kaylan, that has joined us in the first event. I don't know what has happened since then. What has happened at your end? You share with us the purpose of your initiative and the ambitions you had. Now you have listened what is going on with Food Waste Switzerland and these other initiatives. I don't know if you have any thoughts or you can share with us any of the progresses that you have made since April to now.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. Hello, everyone. I don't know if you can hear me well. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, since last time, yeah, it was in April already. It's been a big summer. We've launched one of our biggest campaigns yet to influence and, well, to raise awareness around the issues, and especially to empower and to touch everyone at the end of the value chain. So basically household and customer, and empower those, basically anyone who wants to take action against food waste, and just so to try and touch anyone through this campaign, to just use the app and save a meal anywhere that would otherwise go to waste. And another big thing we've been working on since already more than 6 months. We've discussed a bit about value chain and the fact that we need to touch several points of the value chain. And so we launched a campaign called Wow Brands to try and involve all the major actors of the Swiss food industry to try and make them actually take actions and be fighting with us against food waste, basically. So we have a lot of partners now, including Nestle, Danone, Emmy, Unilever, and other companies like this. So now we're trying to really implement actual measures and trying also to monitor this and really have an impact. So we're trying to touch different different actors of the value chain, let's say, and in different ways. Of course, we're most known for the app for end customers, but we are trying to touch
Thank you.
movement and
Lovely. Maybe you can put in the chat a link to the app. Anybody else who has a question, a comment, a contribution? I can see in the chat a question about what is the main reason for food waste happening in Switzerland. Maybe Saskia, you want to answer? Or anybody?
I think that's the challenge. That's what I meant, that there is not the main reason. There are so many reasons. It depends where in the value chain. And yes, the consumer food waste is very important. It's a large share. And I think it's the different lifestyles. Like one is the spontaneous lifestyle. You just always change plans and never stick to a plan. And then you maybe went shopping and then you end up doing something else. There could be a part, and then a large share is also byproducts from the industry that are not being used for human consumptions, but actually have very valuable ingredients. That's also a large share. That can be bran from the production of from bread if you don't use the whole grain. So it's the skin from the outer skin from wheat, or it can be whey from cheese production. But if you can look at it from different angles. So, and if you would look at the main products, then it would be vegetables, including potatoes, and bread is also very big, and fruit. Also, if you take all the fruits and berries together.
Thank you, Saskia. Any other question, comment?
I think there's a hand up, Jessica Browning.
Oh, good. I think Jessica Browning has
Hi.
up.
Hi, I just wanted to check if you had any concept of how much food we actually import and how much that leads to food waste. Because I think, you know, being in Switzerland, we import as well a lot. And is that also talks from a federal level to kind of maybe grow more here than import?
Well, maybe I can say a few words. It is totally true that we are importing a lot of food, roughly 1/3, depending if you look at the mass or the calories, it varies a bit. Also, if you include forage, then it's even more. So it's a substantial amount of food that is imported. And of course, some types of food are products like banana or cocoa that we cannot produce here, but a lot is also food that could be grown here, that is maybe a bit more efficient in other countries, or even this doesn't need to be the case, but if the price level of the other countries is much lower, then it is economically very interesting to import it, even though environmentally it doesn't make any sense. And given this opportunity for Switzerland to buy in so many products at a very cheap price, also is one of the reasons that fosters food waste. It's much more danger that then the products are wasted. And it also raises the expectations, because in Switzerland we can always have everything, more or less. And these expectations are a large reason for the wasteful behavior. And how to change this is quite a challenge. I think it really needs a combination between consumer sensibilization, seeing the consequences of what I buy, and seeing the huge difference if I just buy a product in the supermarket or if I buy directly at the farmer, where I can see everything, where it's grown, and how direct there is no trade in between where food waste can happen. And secondly, also to create political incentives.
Excellent. Thank you, Claudio. We have 2 minutes, 1 minute ahead. Stephanie, you wanted to comment.
Yes, Jessica's question has brought in also just something important that I wanted to show, the interconnection, the global interconnection. Because for example, with a change in food consumption or lifestyle, so for example, a country was importing maybe beans, and now there is a trend for people to just like chickpeas, and now the importation demand goes down. So that's a whole food waste on the other spectrum. So it's just interesting, I think, when we're having this conversation, to just see how interconnected we are. Because from one area, and lifestyle consumption, I think, is the biggest contributor to the discussions of food waste and loss. Because one area no longer likes the food, this whole area planted it, that's a whole post-harvest gone. So I just wanted, it's just interesting, I wanted to bring about that while we're having these discussions, to just see how very interconnected we are.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephanie. Vittore, sorry, we will leave your question for a little later. We have to start sharp with Dorinda. And please keep your questions, send them in the chat, pop up after the workshop, because the conversation continues. Dorinda, please.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I shall just share my screen. Okay, oops, hold on. Can you see that?
Perfect.
Very good, wonderful. So welcome everybody from my side as well. Very happy to be with you today. As Anna said, my name is Dorinda. I've been responsible for the region of Geneva for Zero Waste Switzerland for about 5 years now. And what we try to do from a zero waste point of view is really help people reduce the total amount of waste and pollution that each one of us is creating in the world, often without realizing, by just showing us what are the simple habits we can do in our everyday lives. So what can we do as individuals to change the way that we're buying or consuming things in order to create a more sustainable future for all of us, for our children. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do 5 minutes brief reacquaint with where we are, the numbers. I'm then going to do about 10-12 minutes of just a few tips and try and make it a little interactive. Going to give you some time in breakout groups, hopefully about 5 to 7 minutes, where you can share with each other your tips and what are 1 or 2 next actions you want to try. Because what we say is you literally cannot change everything at the same time, but what's important is to have 1 new habit, 2 new habits, and to start with those, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, so really briefly, what is zero waste? The way we look at it, it's really about reducing the total amount of natural resources that we're using. And so some of you may be familiar with the 5 R's or 4 R's, or it's about sort of refusing things we know we don't need, reducing a lot of the consumption or waste, reusing items, and then obviously after that we can recycle and compost. And so we talk a lot about how you can buy without packaging, how you can buy locally to reduce transport, buy organically, and lots of other things you can do around buying secondhand, rent, sharing, exchanging, making yourself, even deciding you actually don't even really need it. That's the big picture, zero waste. I'm not sure if you realize, but actually in Europe, actually Switzerland is one of the highest in the world in terms of the amount of total waste that we have. So we're looking at about 703 kilograms per person. That's not just food waste. That's literally everything we throw away in the bins, etc. And so there's a lot we can do to reduce. We typically are looking to say the waste we throw away in our bins is the tip of the iceberg. And so if we reduce that waste, whether it's food waste, whether it's plastic waste, you know, behind that, we're reducing the natural resources that we're consuming, we're reducing the carbon emissions. And right now, I'm not sure if you've heard the number, but right now in Switzerland, we're using about 3 times more natural resources than the earth can actually support, can generate. And you've probably heard that we've got the goal to reduce carbon emissions by about 50%, 60% here in Geneva by 2030. So everything we can do helps and contributes to that. Okay, the good news is lots and lots is possible. Lots and lots of people have reduced waste. Often people start with 1 bag a week. They can take it down to 1 bag every 2 weeks, 1 bag a month, etc. for the overall waste. Okay, so we mentioned this, I think, before. Somebody mentioned what percentage of greenhouse gas emissions are caused by the food sector. Not sure if you can remember what the number was, but in Switzerland it's about 28%. And so we're going to have a quick look at food waste, clearly as a big part, but also what are some other food choices we can make to actually reduce those overall emissions. So does anybody know the percentage of food that's wasted in Switzerland? I'm not sure if we mentioned that number somewhere. Anybody remember what that was? Actually, it's about 33%. So 33% of all of the food that is grown or imported in Switzerland is wasted. We're pretty high there as well. You know, again, it's a rich country. We buy a lot, we waste a lot. And I think has been mentioned, you know, with all the food waste in the world, we could easily feed everybody who is short of food. So we mentioned this, but just to sort of remind you, basically 38% of the food waste is from the households, 27% processing. So that's when we transform foods into ready-made meals or canned foods or etc. After that, it's catering, the restaurants. After that, it's agriculture, retail. And the estimations are that it's about 600 francs per person per year that could be saved, and about 2,500 for a 4-person household. So if we just look briefly, what's actually happening? This was a study that was done by Qantas in Geneva, but also they combined with something that was done in Zurich. And so what they found was there is about 78 kilograms per person per year that's everything. Within that, certainly here in Geneva, about 80% is still being burnt rather than collected for compost. We'll talk about that in a little bit later. But what they found was that about 80% of that would be avoidable. So 20% is not avoidable. Those are things like, you know, meat bones or, you know, rinds that you really can't eat. But about 80% of that would be avoidable. And interestingly, about 3/4 of what is avoidable was after being cooked. So it's leftovers, you know, a big part of that is leftovers, and about 1/4 of that was before being cooked. And so what do you think is the food that is most wasted? Anybody have any ideas? What do you think is most wasted? You can either just speak up or you can just write it in the chat. What is most wasted? Any answers in the chat, Kathleen?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting fruit and vegetables, bread, vegetables.
Exactly. So here's what they found in the study. About between 30 and 40% pretty much of the vegetables are wasted, about almost 40% of all bread and cakes, which is huge. And again, between, you know, 30-40% of fruits. And here we can also see about 30% of all of the pasta, rice, beans, chickpeas, you know, is wasted. You know, that must be leftovers, I guess, because they pretty much don't go off. So, you know, a little bit less of the, you know, meat, fish, etc., etc. So that's where we're starting. So if we look at that and go, okay, so what can we as individuals do? Because we have a lot more power than we think we have. Let's have a look at a few tips. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to share with you a few things now. You're going to get a chance to share a few of your own. But the idea is literally you're looking for what are the 1, 2 next things that you want to try to actually be able to do. Okay, so let's look at leftovers. And again, I'm going to try and make this a bit interactive. So please write in the chat and follow on. What are some of the things you do with your leftovers of food so that it doesn't get wasted? What are some simple things you do?
I think freezing.
Yep, freezing, great, lovely. Other things?
Frittata is always a good one. You throw everything.
Sorry,
Mind you, paella comes from a no food waste approach also.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
putting
use
things
it up.
together.
Use it up in another meal. Absolutely wonderful. Other things?
Let's see, we see soups, freezing, eat the next day, recycle,
Yeah.
compost, potentially.
Lovely.
Give it
So
to
here
the
are just a
dog.
few, exactly, lovely. So here are just a few things, you know, really with the leftovers, it can either just become lunch the next day, it goes into a container or it goes into the fridge and you've already sort of got your lunch for the office. Here's something that my mum used to do. Literally, we just alternated. So we had whatever the food we had on Monday, what was left went into the fridge, you know, then we had something else on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday we had the leftovers, you know, and so it just kind of alternated and we had that again. It can become a side dish for whatever you're doing next day. It can be repurposed. It starts off as chicken, it moves into chicken risotto. You know, there's lots of things. And as you mentioned, freeze, you know, is something that helps a lot. What about vegetables? We know that almost 40% of those are wasted. You've mentioned a couple. So soup, what else do you do with vegetables that are getting a little bit ripe? What can you do?
Yes. Compost.
Yeah, lovely. Gratinée.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all those types of things. It can just become soup. It can become a gratin. Somebody was saying the other day that one of the pizza almost started with a lot of the remains of the vegetables that go on top. You know, pesto, puree, again, freeze, those types of things. The same with fruit. It can just all be made into what the French call compote. Exactly, any type of fruit. It can be made into tarte, and I think a lot of the things here is just having a really simple recipe. You know, if you have what's the easiest way to make tarte, and then you can put everything else that you want on top of that. It can go into cakes, you know, bananas, courgettes, potatoes can go into cakes, you know, lots of things, and juice and freeze. So again, I think it's a case of each person is different, each household is different, but having one or two go-to recipes that you know that if you've got some fruit that's getting ripe, or if you've got some vegetables that are looking as though they need using up, what can you do with it? What about bread? What are some of the things you do with bread? 40% of it, unfortunately, is wasted. What are some of the things you do?
Make crackers by putting it in the oven. They're delicious.
Yes.
Lovely. Crackers, very good.
I have an excellent recipe for bread, the all bread soup. And the older the bread, the better.
Ah, very nice. All bread soup. Yep. So it's those types of things, you know, recipes for dry bread or all bread. We actually have some on the site. I'll show you, but I'm sure there are lots around. It can be croutons or breadcrumbs, can be crackers. You know, it can be freezing it in slices and then putting it in the toaster to defreeze it, etc. So lots of things can be done with that. What about restaurants? What we saw that a certain amount is wasted at the restaurant or the catering level. What can we as consumers do to avoid food waste at restaurants?
Ask for a doggy bag.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And so those types of things, it can be share, you know, really we might love the look of the dessert, but perhaps we think it might be too much. Share the dessert, share the starters. Ask for small sizes, even if they don't have it on the menu. You know, most restaurants will give you a smaller size if you ask for it. And then of course it's the doggy bags. Even better, take your own container, you know, so they can just put it directly into the container. Same thing with wine, if the wine is left over. And there are lots of other things that we might not always think about. I mean, buying locally, you know, and in season can have a big impact. You know, the shorter the distance from the farm, you know, to the market, the less likely things are to actually be wasted or lost. Buying directly from the farm, those types of things make a big difference. We'll talk in a second about in season. Buying whole foods, we saw that 27% comes from transformation. You know, some things we can do as individuals is just literally buy the whole food, you know, and then actually use it. We can avoid a certain amount of what is processed or by doing some of that. Buying in bulk. I'm not sure if this is a habit that you have yet started or not, but more and more across Switzerland, you can find stores where you can literally just go buy without packaging. The good thing about the bulk stores is that you can just buy the quantity you want. And so, you know, a lot less is wasted. Plus, it's usually, there's no 2-in-1 offers or 3-in-1 offers, you know, pushing you to buy things that actually then you may not be able to consume. So that's another one. Other tips. Do you have other things that you know that works to help you reduce food waste? Anything else? Any other things?
I think there's a lot to learn from different cultures.
I'm sure.
I think the Southern cultures do it much better. They're very, very conscious of reusing. You know, all the recipes we've talked about, paella, pizza, this is from Southern countries, which have a culture of reusing food.
Yeah.
And recognizing how food can taste even better the second or third day.
Yeah.
It's not a Northern European thing. I think it's very much.
Yep, absolutely. Great idea. It's lovely. Actually one that I don't even have on my list. I'm going to add that. And so, you know, obviously some people like to sort of make the shopping list and remember to look in the fridge before, or for me, I have to remember to look in my diary. Am I going to be here this week? Am I not going to be here this week? How much do I need? Some people like to make a menu plan. The other one is don't shop when we're hungry. Makes a big difference. You know, eat a cookie or something beforehand. Reorganizing the fridge. Some people like to, you know, once or twice a week, literally just look and go, okay, let me move the stuff that's old to the front of the fridge and let me move the new stuff to the back. And, you know, even investigating, you know, some people actually do like a little study where they put the remains of the peel into one bin and they put the stuff that could have been eaten into another. And at the end of the week, you can have a look and go, okay, what is being wasted? You know, because we don't always realize those are the things, some things, and other things we won't go into now, but really learning perhaps a bit more to trust our senses rather than following exactly the use by date. Obviously that depends, you know, whether it's meat or fish, good idea to follow, but many other things, there are things we can do. Okay, and when in doubt, ask your mum, you know, or ask someone over 80 because, you know, they're very likely to know how you do this. Okay, I'm just going to take 2-3 minutes and show 1 or 2 other food choices, and then we're going to give you some chance to discuss. So we know that generally eating more plant-based, less meat, dairy can make a very big difference in season, local, organic, etc. Here's something, if we look at in season, so this is an example. A kilogram of green beans grown locally in season is 1/2 kilogram of CO2. What do you think has the biggest impact, or which has the most impact? If you grow it locally out of season in heated greenhouses, or you grow it abroad, let's say in Egypt, you know, and bring it in by boat or lorry?
Grown locally out of season in heated greenhouses. I had read that.
And so actually what we see is if it is grown abroad in season, it's already 2.5 times more the impact, which is a lot, you know, if we're looking at that versus what we're doing. But if we grow it locally out of season, it's about 8 times more, which is huge. So a big thing we can do is literally just get used to eating in season. Plus everything tastes much better if we do. We've all seen the numbers, you know, there's a lot more carbon emissions related to the meat. And it's not a question of never eating meat, just eating a lot less and better quality. So 1 kilogram of pork, 80 kilograms of potatoes, CO2, kilogram of beef, 15.5 CO2, kilogram of lentils, 0.7. You know, there's a big difference. The more that we can actually reduce the amount of meat, the better. Same with the dairy. And so just to finish, that was a little bit food waste, but there's a lot you can do to reduce also the other things related to packaging waste and compost. Certainly here in Geneva, but maybe across Switzerland as well, there's a huge campaign around compost at the moment. What's happening is that it's still 1/3 of all of the waste, including the food waste that is in the bins. And I'm not sure if you know, but it's actually composed of 90% water. So what that means is that we're actually trying to burn water, you know, which is incredibly ineffective, takes a lot of energy. We're losing the natural resources, and it's more expensive. In Geneva, they're paying between 3 and 4 million francs a year to burn water. You know, so if you haven't started composting, that's a great thing to start doing. If you, and again, inspire all your friends and all your neighbours, and that can help. There's lots of different systems to do that. The hot bins, the worm composters, the home things, etc. Other things you can do, cloth bags. So you can take your cloth bags, you can buy your fruit and vegetables, you can buy your bread. Most places are very happy to put it in your cloth bags, whether it's at the market or whether in the supermarket. You can buy virtually any food now in Switzerland in the bulk stores without packaging, and then you just stick it in the jar at home. And then the big ones here in Geneva, you can have these in other areas, you know, Chez Mamie, Jonction, Bocal Local, Manor, and Nature en Vrac behind the station. So lots and lots of opportunities. There's a map on the Zero Waste Switzerland website for the whole of Switzerland with all of the bulk stores, so you can find that. The final thing is buy your own, you know, your own containers. I'm not sure if you realize, but today, Migros, Coop, all the big supermarkets, Migros, Coop, Manor, they will officially accept your own containers if you want to buy your fish, your cheese, your meat, if it's loose. And so that's something that makes a huge difference. All the small stores love to do that. And often people send us photos after the workshop to say the proof, we did it, we went and bought it. Okay, so we have these stickers, bring your own containers, which the shops can put up to show that they do it, which makes it a little bit easier. And today you can buy absolutely everything, which I won't go into now, without packaging in the box stores. Okay, so what I'd like to do now, and Kathleen or Isabel or whoever is helping, it would be great if we can just put people into groups of 3 or 4 people. And the idea now is that whether you just think a little bit about whether the tips you've seen or other things you've heard, you know, what are the next food waste habits that you're going to try, the next 2 or 3 things, and also share your tips. So we're going to give you about 5 or 6 minutes in your groups to just think about what is the 1 or 2 next things I'm going to try. Because as we talk about the bridge between knowledge and action, you know, we often know what we're going to do, but it's committing to what is that 1 or 2 next things. Okay, Kathleen, I'll let you put people into groups.
Yeah, it's just going to be automatic setup. So here goes.
And then you're going to bring people back, aren't you?
Yeah, we can be back in the main room.
In about 6 minutes, so just after 22, and then we'll wrap up with
going off, open all rooms.
So I said, I hope you had a chance to talk a little bit about some next things you're going to do. I'm just going to wrap this up, but what would be wonderful is if you could just write in the chat, what is one next habit you're going to try? And then we've got a little bit of a record. So everybody just write all at once and I shall get my screen back on sharing. So what is the one next habit you're going to try to continue reducing food or overall waste? I'll just let you do that for 30 seconds. And Kathleen, I don't know if you want to read any out that are coming in. We can't hear you. I think you must be on mute.
Yeah, go.
So sorry, we've got buy in season, reduce packaged goods, improve the organization of the fridge, taking on containers to the grocery store, continue to shift into eat less meat, transform more stale bread recipes.
Don't forget containers in car.
Don't forget containers in car boot. Yeah,
that's such a good one.
Good place to keep them.
Yeah.
Wonderful, very nice. So lots of good things. Just to wrap up, so basically, for anybody here in Geneva, we do have a series of 3 workshops: food and drink, beauty, cleaning, clothes, work holidays, presents, where we sort of try to show what are all the things you can do to reduce the overall waste, carbon emissions. In those, we tend to just put products on the tables. You can touch them, talk about them, ask questions, etc., etc. And lots of time to discuss in small groups around the tables. We also have what we call our mini workshops for people who are interested in learning how to make certain products of their own. Those can be sort of cosmetics or cleaning products, things like deodorant or laundry detergent or beeswax. But we also have a few food things that you can make. You can find all of the events on the Zero Waste Switzerland website. It's also in English. Well, the website is in English. We don't have a lot of events in English, but it kind of looks like that. We do have a couple of events coming up in English in the next couple of weeks. In fact, we have a food and drink workshop on Monday, actually in the center of Geneva. There are still places left for that. That's free, you know, if people want to come. We also have a beauty cleaning clothes one in October. Otherwise, for anybody who speaks French, on the Carouge at Zero Waste website, we actually have a list of all the recipes that we show for all the different products, but we've also got recipes for old bread, dry bread, things that you can do with things like that. And I'm sure there are many other sites of the people who've talked today where you can find recipes as well. Otherwise, from my side, just to say good luck on your journey towards zero waste. Every step counts. Every little thing we can do makes a difference, and we believe that together we can help create a sustainable future. There's a lot of people working towards this now, and I will leave you with a quote from Margaret Mead, who was an English anthropologist, who said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." And with that, thank you very much to all of you. Thank you for your participation. And I'll just leave you with anybody who wants the contact details. There's the two websites, Zero Waste Switzerland, and there's also the Carouge website.
We will be writing a follow-up email to all the participants, and we will be including all those details. Thank you so much, Dorinda.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Dorinda. Wonderful. Wow, as you can see, this is a very, very, very condensed meal. And we will be wrapping up with a few thoughts of the different sessions at the end. Before everybody starts going away, I invite you to move now to the dessert. It is the project, the playbook that I want to propose. Anything immediate that needs to be solved now? Kathleen, allow me please share my
Go ahead, you can share. You're able to.
I don't have the, it doesn't show us. I can.
Oh, it's set up for everybody.
There you go. It is here.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And I want to introduce you to this project that I imagine co-created with you, Giving Women and other food champions, and it is Kitchens of the World. And it proposes that our kitchens, no matter how tiny or messy they are, they can revolutionize us, the food systems, and the planet. Sorry that, okay, yes. We are deeply convinced at my initiative, the Nutriverse, that we meet and we can influence our environment most intimately when we eat it. So Kitchens of the World is basically a playbook. It's not your usual food or cooking book. It's an innovative, inclusive, ever-building playbook, and it is playbook because it is dynamic, it's not static. All of us can be authors, and I can see there's so many tips and so many knowledge that we can gather from all these inputs that we in just half an hour could get, and imagine all the wisdom that all of us have and are scattered all around. So this could be a collection of all the wisdom, the know-how and tips, and not only by us who are here, but the less expected and currently invisible people in different corners in the world. So basically, this also celebrates these unrevealed chefs, and where we can learn from the ancestral stories how they do not waste, and also how they maximize use of the little resources at a time they have. And maybe they are addressing the dysfunctionalities of our food systems without even knowing. So we want to learn from them, we want to find them, and we want to invite them to this collection of wisdom and celebration around food waste. So the three topics that the central topics in this playbook are food waste, food diversity and food production in a small scale, in many places, at home, or in very teeny corners in different parts in the less expected places. And these are the key 3 themes of that are proposed in this playbook. So an interesting concern we have, and we want to bring to highlight it in this project, is how our food system, the food system we have allowed to happen, we have somehow permit that imposes at times this dietary standardization. And the globalization can have so many positive aspects, but at the same time it's taking a lot of the uniqueness of different contexts, and also especially some pockets of population where their traditional diets are endangered. We wish to highlight the role of women as key driver for change, but also more in particularly where these traditional diets are being endangered. Obviously, we will be with this project contributing to the sustainable development goals. So the project, the playbook, is powered by the Nutriverse, that it is my initiative, and the proposal or the narrative we bring into nutrition and food aspects is that it's a narrative that it is complementary to the narratives that we have at hand now. That narrative of the politicians that at times we don't trust, academia that at times is difficult to understand, and there are so many discoveries that at times we cannot cope with, narratives of influencers or the Instagrammers that at times have misleading informations, and also the narrative of the food industry. We realize how much we want to turn the tide and bring a different approaches that are not related just to numbers, but also people at the center caring about us and our nutrition. So this narrative is it's all this information, all this narrative seems a little bit gray, heavy on us, and the Nutriverse want to bring a narrative of joy. Want also make us feel what we are. I mean, we can trust in us, we can play, we can find pleasure around these issues, and more importantly, caring and sharing. So the tools we wish to use in this playbook are using the power of the creativity, innovation, and storytelling, and basically starting with photography and videos, the stories of individuals. And we can imagine, we have an ambitious goal of having a series similar to the relevant series that appear in some programs, food related, like in Netflix. So I don't need to go through why food waste could be paradoxically the inspiration for this creation. We have been discussing this around all this session. So concretely, this playbook is a digital book to start. Some printouts are possible at a later stage. We imagine to have also pop-ups that can come out at later stages. The activities, for instance, that Food Waste Switzerland is doing, they are already pop-ups. So we can imagine maybe getting together and making something, nurturing each other, similar activities. So the first pop-up event that we would like to bring is in December, when we imagine starting to collect your stories, your tips, your photos, your videos in this collective, in this gathering collectively in this playbook, and to see where we are by December 2021, but also how to quantify the food waste that we are rescuing. And these, of course, will need some technical consultations with Claudio, with Karen, with Stephanie, and how we can quantify. And it's not only about it's cute and nice doing it, but how we are really measuring impact. We could imagine also, and we started some discussions with a very, very interesting project in Switzerland that it is Cuisine Lab, that there are chefs that are getting integrated into the culture and becoming economically independent, and their learnings are very likely to share with other vulnerable populations through food in general, but food waste could bring these activities to the next level. So the authors of this playbook, it could be each of us, and it will include basically your tips, the photo or the video in the kitchens, where you experiment with all these tips or with this know-how, and the story that you have and the action you want to propose. So there are 4 different items that we imagine having from each of you as author, of each of friends, or more importantly, from contacts you have in different corners in the world, in particular, those who are the less expected or more remotely or more vulnerable in so many different, from different angles you could imagine. And the 3 topics, the 3 chapters that the booklet will have will be food waste, food diversity, and food production. So the stages that I can imagine are, today is an idea presentation, is just presenting the project, brainstorming a little with you, and also to get your feedback, your thoughts, your ideas, and then to see how we move forward. And I imagine after this session to establish a working group with all of you interested, that we get together and give a proper shape to this idea. We can imagine a very simple version of this booklet, something as simple as a deck with collecting all these inputs that you contribute with. And I can imagine also a plan B that can be a more, let's say, more, if not formal, but more enticing production, artistic production. And there are some discussions going on already with very interesting photographers that are very much interested and active in with social challenges, like Greg Seagal. And we can imagine also that there could be some field work at some stage, but that is a little bit more of a more ambitious side of the project, where some context can be portrait, and take photography and film in a more professional way by one of these photographers. So who will be the audience? The audience of the Kitchens of the World is all inclusive. And to start with Planetary Guardians, who are the Planetary Guardians is all of us here. We're here for a reason. We're interested about these issues, but then we are gradually inviting others to participate. And we are interested, of course, the youth and children to be involved, but also the senior, because at times, and we can see how increasingly they have been neglected, if not stigmatized. 3 contexts I can imagine if we move forward with having a photographer visiting some context and doing this more as in a documentary form. We could use some of the networks and resources we have in different corners in the world, in Africa, in South Sudan, in Malakal, and a specific location, in Latin America, in Guatemala, Chichicastenango. In Asia, it could be Afghanistan from an accessible location, or let's imagine in Geneva, where there are families from Afghanistan, and like this, we can also bring some messages around these contexts. Funding possibilities, I have a number of possibilities. I'm pretty sure you could contribute with many, and not only listing, but also having access to them to find their contributions. And the feeling of the playbook would be, of course, hopeful, of pleasure, given the sense, and not only the sense, but it's actually bring us together and it's together to produce the change, the changes we want to see. And the team, it could be you, your families, and all can, as I mentioned, all can be co-creators with your tips, with your photos or films, with your story and action. These are the 4 components or the inputs expected from whoever who wants to participate. And the core group, it includes a nutritionist, a photographer, and food champions. Stephanie is already on board. I mentioned the photographer Greg Siegal. Have a look to his website. I will be sharing with you in a moment. And of course, there are other talents that will be needed to be part of the team. So the question is, are you interested, and how would you contribute? As mentioned, it could be as in the content, it could be in the advisory and promotion, it could be in the funding, it could be with talent. And the next steps will be to incorporate your feedback. I will be sharing a last version of the draft that you have seen with more concrete, in a more concrete shape, and to hear from you if you want to join the working group and to see how we can leverage resources together. So get in touch with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It was me, Fitore. Sorry to last minute.
No, please, you were holding hand ready for.
Yes, I wanted really to hold hand because, I mean, I've discussed the matter with Anna, but I think it's also, I wanted to share with the others because I'm really glad and very happy to have participated to this workshop. Thank you, Anna, for making this possible and making all of us, I mean, think about the future, which I think is very important about the waste, I mean, the waste management, food management, everything. On that, actually, I wanted, just because I'm in the full process now with another team that we're working on setting a new restaurant in Geneva, which will be an associative working with the refugees, and it's about the training. But all I'm linking the matter is that when we will do the training, when we will do the learning, I think, and that's what I've been insisting, and that's the reason why I've been pushing Anna to become, let's say, active on this, is that it's also to train the cooks, the chefs, about how we do the waste, I mean, the food waste management. And in having kind of followed this this industry in the last 6 months, I've seen that there are 1 or 2 that started to do this, but still it's not that practical, because of course it has the cost impact, but also it has yeah, how do I say, the local market and everything. So that's why I'm saying I wanted just to highlight, it's a long debate, but I wanted just to say that there's a long road again in terms of advocacy and also training of the new cooks. And I'm sure that we will do that, but it's just a subject to keep in mind, because it's true, we do this in our household, but I think it's also important to start doing as well in the public areas. So this is, I mean, from deep of my heart, because it's not easy. And as I said, we're working with chefs from different countries. They are from Syria, from Sri Lanka. And as we said, different cultures, different way of dealing. But one of the let's say, of the modules will be as well how to learn to do a less and less, I mean, to do a food management and do have less waste. So that's what I wanted to share as a last minute. But thank you all for everything. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Fitore. And we are overdue with the time. The topic is so rich and so exciting. Just to say that I believe that we found answers, not final answers, just a light of answers of why our kitchens, why us, why today, and we are living with some tips that we saw with Dorinda. She very quickly guided us to us. We realized that there is a lot of wealth of information and tips and know-how and how we can put it together. I don't know, Atalanti, if you can give the last few words to wrap up this very nutritious session.
Yeah. So first of all, I'd like to say a sincere thank you to Anna and to the great panel and to Dorinda, because there was a lot of information there. I think we covered the actually massive problem that we have here, because we're talking at the beginning of the food chain, the matter of waste from the farm right to the fork, as they say. But the other aspect of it was that we can all be part of the solution, both within our homes, but also in our actions as consumers, in our pressure that we can put. So I think that we have been very much empowered today to take action. I think that we will very much look forward to getting a group together to work on the booklet, the way forward. We had seen it also as something that could provide actually recipes, tips. I mean, every aspect of ways of improving not only our nutrition and the way that we eat, but also in how we can actually make a change in the food system, which is really needs it very desperately. And I'll just end to say that we have a lot of panels coming up, a lot of events coming up. So please go to our website, our new and very much more user-friendly website to check on the panels, discussions, the workshops that we're organizing, and hope to see you at one of those. And I'll leave with the tenet that is very close to the heart of Giving Women, which is to say that each one has the power. So we believe in the power of one and the magic of many. So here we are all together. Let's move forward. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anna. Thank you for the whole team. Thank you for the Giving Women team, for the technological part. And we look forward to seeing you at other panels. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.